Hey everyone, Margarita here. I'm going to film this episode on the 2 Romulus, Michigan police reports that I have here. Or I believe it's 3 actually. There's a total of 3. 2 were written by me, 1 was by my mother. And I was the one who wrote one first. And the first one, it says the date of arrival was October 20th, 2023 at approximately 6 p.m. to October 21st, 2023 at approximately 2:57 p.m. Now, the reason for that is because of all the brain injuries that I have. I did have 4 at that time. I acquired a 5th one about 3 weeks after this. I had been running around all year, abruptly uprooted from my home from the gas leak, barely made it down to Ohio, had to remain sheltered in place for a few months, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't walk, couldn't work. And then I had a month, once the particles started to clear, everything started to run normally again. But then my dad fell. So here I was, I spent about 8 months at this, 10 months, running back and forth all over the place, injured myself, trying to keep my kids' homeschooling done. You know, I live with ongoing continuous symptoms that wax and wane all day. My functioning's becoming less and less. I had just lost the ability to maintain treatment as well as I had been the entire injury. So this injury had been going on for almost 6 years at that point, and I'd been treating for almost 5. And I had just lost the ability. It eventually all toppled over, and I knew if I wasn't able to work properly 1 week, just long enough, it would topple everything over. So that had just happened prior to this. And there's a reason I'm stating this, so I'll get to that in the end. Because apparently this was technically investigated, so we'll see. Now, what they were doing is they were rushing me, and apparently I wasn't filling out the forms fast enough for them. And again, I have all these brain injuries. If I had no treatment, it would have took me 5 times as long to write this all out. I was writing as quick as I could, but I have to put so much information in these reports because nobody's going to understand what I'm saying because of how long all this stuff's been going on for decades. No one's going to understand what I'm saying or where this is all coming from or why. So I have to add all this additional information, and here I am not sleeping right. I can't rest, like not even 1 day at this point for almost a year. You know, it's just ongoing problems, and I'm just exhausted, just completely wiped out almost at this point. So they told me to take it home and bring it back the next day. So I did. So that's why it says that. But then down below it just says on October 21st, 2023, that I provided the written statement. And again, this police department specifically, these are not my hand-typed documents like the Royal Oak Police Department. They retyped these up from what I had written initially. And they manipulated what I had said and changed the wording around and to make it say strange words, to make it look like I have a mental disorder. So I might stumble and have to stop to try to figure out what I wrote because they write completely other words than what I wrote in the initial handwritten report. I believe they did that intentionally so they could back up the mental disorder. So I'll get to that all in a second. But it says my father had been a patient at Special Tree in Romulus, Michigan, since February of 2023 on and off after a very bad fall at work in January of 2023, that my mother had been known to poison batches of food for decades. She has Munchausen syndrome by Proxy and several other disorders not properly diagnosed. I'd hired Charmaine at this point 3.5 years prior to document the crimes and watch them play out firsthand. I put her phone number. My mother places delusional phone calls to local police departments, mostly Brownstown and Flat Rock, for the past 23 years to make them believe I have an ongoing mental disorder and drug problem. So when I figured everything out, no one would take my reports. She has committed many very serious crimes along the way, including several counts of attempted murder, kidnapping of my oldest 2 children, and much more. None of these incidents have been investigated, and she is allowed to continue to commit these crimes against me and destroy my life using large agencies. My youngest child and I were severely poisoned by carbon monoxide and left for dead in an extreme medical emergency without treatment due to her actions and her working for Beaumont for 45 years. We have been through millions of dollars in treatment at a private center. Over $1 million in treatment before insurance, basically. So if you count what the insurance had, what they billed the insurance, and then what I paid out of pocket, it was over $1 million. But then they put the insurance discount on. The insurance paid about almost $200,000, and I spent about $165,000. So that could have been manipulated a little, but it was about a little over $1 million before insurance and how they bill it. So we are still treating to this day. We are permanently injured, have lost 5 years of our lives. My mother's been able to move my father to many different facilities, mostly Beaumont, in order to control the false narrative and ban me from seeing him. My father has been rushed from Special Tree Beaumont Wayne on numerous occasions this year due to her causing... Yeah, they manipulated the words. She causes him to go into septic shock repeatedly. This occurs after he ingests a dose of whatever she has poisoned. Special Tree employees are aware of what has been going on, but cannot catch her in the act. Of course, you're not going to catch her in the act. I told you she does it at home. She doesn't do it in the facility. No one's listening to anything that I'm saying at any step during this, at any time, at any facility or any department ever. Since the most recent hospitalization at the beginning of August 2023, she has been slipping my father several doses of whatever poison she uses mixed with water. At this point, it was water because he could not have food. And he can no longer swallow or drink food because he has a temporary trach tube that has been put in place due to the most recent case of septic shock. Instead, my father swishes the water around in his mouth and uses the suction device to spit into. This past week, my father returned to Special Tree after being at 2 Beaumont locations over the past 2.5 months. Since being back, my mother has snuck in 3 empty liquor bottles, mini liquor bottles. I believe I have a picture floating around, filled with water and whatever the poisonous substance is, I believe, and a Kroger brand bottle of water on 2 separate occasions. None of this was necessary because I had been buying large cases of water at Sam's Club and then keeping one in his closet and on his dresser at Special Tree since I realized she was poisoning his water bottles earlier that year. So yeah, that made no sense. She wouldn't need to bring in any additional bottles, and then why would they need to be hidden in mini liquor bottles? That doesn't make sense either. There were still 10 to 12 unopened bottles of the water. And the police department refused to take those mini liquor bottles because I snatched them from his room and I brought them to them, and they said, "How do we know you didn't poison them?" So I believe I threw them away, and if I didn't, they might be in a bag upstairs. So I can go check and see if I actually still have them because they might be upstairs. There were still 10 to 12 unopened bottles of water from the last case I had bought a few months ago, available on his dresser and in his closet. She walked into Special Tree with it as if it was her personal bottle of water and mixes it in with his other bottles that he has setting out on his table. He had numerous bottles, so she'd mix it all up in there with them. I know they're poisoned because I have been her primary victim since my paternal grandmother passed away in 1999. I have a permanent esophagus problem and systemic toxicity. So the systemic toxicity is due to my injury. But the esophagus problem, and it's not acid reflux, it's the poison coming up, and if I ingest like any type of wrong type of food, it causes an additional problem due to the long-term ingestion of this stuff over time. So they wrote that wrong as well. Twice earlier this year, I accidentally drank an entire bottle of it and became violently ill shortly after, it was not long after. And the other time was 3 sips. And the time that I was violently ill, I was violently vomiting all night long, just like the apple pie incident, which I made the video on that as well. And the other time was just 3 sips. I just needed a few sips of water, and I had immediate, like what you would call heartburn because of the long-term effects I suffer from her doing that my whole life. That's what it causes within me personally. So it wasn't really heartburn. It's the poison coming up, and I kind of got to like stick my finger down my throat and get just that poison up. And even if I just ate, it'll just be the poison that comes up, and then it's fine. Not even everything, like if it was food, not even, well, I don't eat her food most of the time. But let's just say I eat something wrong or drink something wrong. I don't even have to fully throw up. It just has to be that amount of poison to come up to make it stop. That's how you stop it. Because heartburn medication doesn't work because that's not what it is. Now, after the 3, these people wrote, I can't believe that, like how badly mistyped this is. Had immediate heartburn after the 3 sips. There had been several batches of food that she also poisoned and brought him earlier in the year when he could still eat food. Shortly after, he went into septic shock and was rushed back to the hospital. Several years ago, I hired a private lab to test my father's hair sample. The problem is that if you don't choose the proper category of poisons to test for, it will not show up. It would cost around $20,000 to test for every category. Special Tree has only tested one batch of mouthwash that I would believe to be poisoned, but that does not mean it was truly negative because of all the substances. They don't test for it properly. They're not checking for any of those substances within the medical system, basically. My mother's very conniving and pretentious. She gained supporters to join her side by telling them delusions about me. She worked for Beaumont for 45 years before retiring in 2020. She knows how to bypass certain systems and is very confident in her knowledge that whatever substance she is using will not be found. Particularly, she worked in the cancer center, x-ray department, and billing. The substance appears mostly clear, sometimes cloudy if shaken, and sometimes foamy when added to mouthwash. I have a couple dozen samples at a private location in Ohio. I took each one after he ingested it or used each one and had a reaction almost immediately. He has symptoms of neurological impairment, many stroke-like symptoms, confusion, agitation, urinary tract infections, and then sepsis starts settling in. This is, I don't even know why it says that. When my father was still at Beaumont, he requested that the physician from Special Tree, Kelly, come see him. I contacted her to let her know since he can't speak. She stated that she is banned from seeing him at Beaumont. By this time, I had also been banned. My mother controls the false narrative within Beaumont, so anyone who is a threat to her and is aware of her and her actions has been banned. I myself have also been banned as a patient due to her actions over the past 5.5 years. Supposedly, my father is still in control of his own medical care, but is not always alert enough. This does not add up because it is my mother banning different people. It talks about how I have some power of attorney paperwork, and we've been talking about it all year, and that it's been drawn up. But however, my father is not well enough to sign them. I am my parents' only child and have owned my own home since age 18. I've been working since age 14. I'm now in my 4th home at age 39. I have no direct contact with my mother since moving out at age 18. This is how she was able to control a false narrative about me and use large agencies to harass me. I do not have contact with most of my extended family and the people she tells her delusions to. I did not discover this is what she had been doing until mine and my son's carbon monoxide injury became extreme in January of 2018, and we could not get treatment within the traditional medical system. Shortly after I began piecing everything together is when I hired Charmaine in February of 2020. My mother does not have basic life skills, does not know how to maintain household bills, and has never made more than $30,000 a year. She hides behind Beaumont and my father. My parents' finances are a concern because my mother does not understand them, and my father has sometimes been too unwell and out of it to take care of them. I also have 2 adult children whom my mother has tried to turn against me. She is also into some serious brainwashing tactics. She is somehow able to get certain individuals to neurologically flip, make false statements to authorities, and false 911 calls to the police. My 18-year-old daughter was kidnapped by my mother twice, once at age 8 and once at age 16. My main home was on the main blast zone of the Ford gas leak in 2021. She used this incident to insert herself, call the mayor into the top of Ford, and cut off our hotel so my youngest son and I would be forced home to die. Our condition is very serious, and those trace amounts of gas remnants left after the area being considered all clear per the EPA were enough to kill us. And actually, they were not EPA's level of all clear. They manipulated those results. They didn't even begin flushing it to get it to EPA's level of all clear until 6 months down the line after I had returned home. So this had probably been 8 months since it had spilled. I spent every penny I had left purchasing a home far enough away to get us to safety so that I could still get to and from work. Months after being forced home to live on the floor of the only room that was mostly all clear in my house. It wasn't all clear, but it was mostly clear. My youngest has never been allowed near my mother, and they have no relationship. He is 7 years old. My mother also used the gas leak to kidnap my then 16-year-old daughter, claiming to the Brownstown Police Department that she has always had custody of my daughter. Brownstown believed everything my mother told them, refused to return my daughter to me just after my daughter stole my mortgage payment of $1,563. Flat Rock Police Department also refused to investigate due to my mother's delusional phone calls to them. At the same time, my daughter remained truant for over a year because no police department would take any of my reports seriously. She missed over a year of school without consequence and is still not well, at the time, she was still not graduated. I have been her only parent her entire life, the only one parenting her. And now there was more manipulation because where my home is, her school district, we have a different school district than the city where my home is. So there's 3 cities police departments were involved because the city where the school was actually taking my reports genuinely, and the reports were correct and true. I don't really need to read them, but because there's no manipulation in them, they were taking facts and writing facts, but still would not, collaborate with the other police departments to get her back to school. But it states in there so many times, like, okay, the father has her, father admits he's the father, even though he's not on the birth certificate. That's not a question who the father is, but he's still not getting her to school, and if he can't get her to school, she needs to be returned to the mother, because that's who's been bringing her to school her whole life. So that never happened. And it's really due to my mother's manipulation in the Brownstown police and the Flat Rock police. And no one ever investigated the Flat Rock incident either. And then my mother admitted in front of Charmaine that she had called Flat Rock in advance as well. And which is also, because I believe she told them that I'd never have that type of money because I'm such a mental disorder drug addict. So I believe that's what happened there. And I do have 2 witnesses who came with me that day and seen how the police were acting. The games continued on for so long that the front of the court got involved, but turned around and gave full custody to her father 5 months before she turned 18. My mother's also inserted herself in that investigation, leading the investigator to believe everything she said about me was real, when those were in fact nothing but delusions. My daughter's father is a real self-admitted drug addict who cannot provide adequate food, shelter, and parent properly. Not one agency would verify any of this with Charmaine, who knows everyone involved personally. This chaos has been ongoing for 23 years and will not stop until someone apprehends her. Each crime my mother commits is, hold on, they changed the wording, is tied to the last, while I am left spinning in chaos due to her actions. This is not going to stop until someone apprehends her. My mother was also caught holding up my dad's catheter bag while on vacation in the beginning of August. That's when he got the trach tube, when he got jumped back off at Special Tree and then rushed into the hospital. She did this multiple times intentionally. This caused the septic shock to settle in faster. Adult Protective Services were called by Beaumont Wayne. My mother has managed to make sure they do not contact me by telling them delusions about me. I contacted them multiple times, got no response. No proper APS investigation was ever done. They only have 1 child. How could you do a proper investigation when that adult child's been on their own all those years? And there's reasons for that and why there's no contact. But so how could you ever do a proper investigation? Right then and there, it proves it. She has also made 21 years of false CPS reports on myself, causing me to leave 2 homes that I owned and 2 that I'd rented. There is a recording of my mother after getting caught holding up the catheter bag. And then additionally, I have a recording of her repeating delusions to my daughter about trying to deny like ever calling CPS on me during my injury, and she sounds deranged in the recording. So I'm going to do a different video with these recordings. I didn't write that in the report, but I just wanted to mention that because I did find that as well recently. Now, then it states, okay, it says Corporal Farhat advised me that the locations where I alleged the allegations of crimes were reported to have taken place were all outside of the city of Romulus, with an exception of the unconfirmed allegations at Special Tree. Therefore, they wouldn't be investigating the ones that occurred outside, which I didn't expect them to. I just had to give the backstory for anybody to understand what I'm talking about. And then his summary says that he had investigated my dad allegedly being poisoned by my mother, and that I was noticed to appear to have severe mental disorders and delusions. So you investigated, much like Abigail Berlin at the Beaumont Royal Oak, you investigated by talking to my mother, and then who has been brainwashing my father, who has now been, he was not in a place to be questioned or filling out any type of documents at this time, as I stated earlier in that report. Either way, she'd been brainwashing him for decades anyway about me. Either way, his idea of investigating is asking the deranged lunatic who's been brainwashing each individual around her, and the deranged lunatic herself. That's how you that's your idea of investigating? Every single one of these motherfuckers got the same damn problem. You all investigate by asking the deranged lunatic. I'm so sick of this shit. Every report is the same. That's how they verify and investigate. That's your fucking idea of investigating? Where the fuck did you get a police badge from? The damn Cracker Jack box? Every single one of them. Every single one of these. Because I got more. I got tons of them. I'm just getting started. Yeah, is my face turning red? Anyway. I'm so fucking irritated. Anyway, on 4/20/2024, I come in to make another police report. And this was shortly after I had eaten the half a sandwich and then a few days later the half of wrap, which both were poisoned, and the wrap significantly more. So this is what I came to report that day. It says, Officer Reyna met with me, who advised that I was there to, she was advised I was there to make a report against my mother for poisoning my father at Special Tree. In Romulus, she advised me, or no, I advised her that my mother had poisoned a sandwich and a wrap of my father's, but had no evidence. I advised her that I ate half the sandwich and half the wrap, and then suffered symptoms at 2 separate occasions, and then suffered symptoms that were similar to the symptoms that I suffered from when I was a kid. No, not the same symptoms. Not the same exact symptoms, because I've had an injury. My brain tissue is open. The particles now go through it immediately and load up. It's different now since my injury in 2018. It's not the same symptoms I had growing up. So that's all falsified right there. No one's comprehending my injuries. That's why I'm trying to tell people my injuries. Then they judge me on what I look like and act like there's no fucking injury. Sorry, I'm so mad, dude. Like, this is just off the charts. I had no proof that my mother actually poisoned anything, did not have any medical documents to show that I ingested any poison. There wouldn't be any medical documents. A, they don't check for it. There's no way to check for it in the medical system. B, I am banned from every medical department and getting proper medical care. We don't know the substance. It can't be checked for. I can't lose blood or I become incapacitated because I'm so overloaded with carbon monoxide at a tissue and cellular level that if I do one set of blood work, I become incapacitated for a month or 2. So no, there would not be any blood work. There would not. How would I bring the food when the food's long gone? So these people are just so dumb. Officer Reyna spoke with my mother over the phone, who advised her daughter has been making these claims for years, and all the doctors and her father at the care facility can see that she will make things up. So where did they get that information from? The deranged lunatic who told them that the doctors can see that I make things up. I'm not making anything up. I'm reporting the truth, and no one's fucking listening to me. Again, that's why it's going on decades later. Okay, so then my mother advised there's an issue at the moment at Special Tree because it was discovered that I was bringing marijuana to my father, and it was causing issues with his medication he's currently taking. And then Officer Reyna found no proof or evidence of a crime at this time. Okay, well, we live in Michigan here. Marijuana is recreational here. Not only that, the reason he started asking for the edibles, mind you, he'd been eating them for years. She just had no clue. So the reason he's asking for them at this point is because she began to withhold his pain medication and pull it from his chart at every facility transfer along the way. And she was either removing it completely from his chart or telling him he takes a half or a quarter of the dose. And it was leaving him in extreme pain and extreme distress. And that's why he started asking for them, because he thought his pain medication wasn't working. And the reality was she pulled it from his fucking chart. That's what happened. I'm glad these people are so bright. You know, I'm a better cop than all these people. I could sit here and investigate all day. I busted open the entire thing. Wait till I get to the very end and the plot twist comes out. Okay, next police report. Okay, here we go, right here. This is the one my mother made on me. on 6/7 of 2024. And this is regarding the power of attorney documents, which I believe I had signed on 4/20 of 2024. They were legit. Again, we had spoken about these power of attorney documents numerous times over the course of his entire injury. He was 100% sure he had never signed any documents. Basically, she slipped him in and got some fake ones signed when he was not coherent enough to do so. And it was 2 or 3 days after I read that first police report, 2 or 3 days after that date. So I wrote in that report, he's not well enough to sign him. I've been carrying him around. He just can't sign him yet. So proof right there. Not only that, I have a video of his actual physical state and mental state at that time, proving he's not capable of signing them the day she slipped him in and got these false ones signed. So I did not know this until after I got these real ones signed on April 20th, 2024. So she makes this report after she figures out I get these. She's calling them false, but mine are actually real, and he never knew he even signed the ones that she had. But she's also repeating delusions and brainwashing him all along the way of all this, because she's there alone with him when she's there. I'm there with my children with him, and we don't talk to him the way she does, and she's over here repeating delusions to him. So then especially with all the brain injuries at this point, the delusions come out of his mouth. This situation is so disgusting. It's so extreme. It's so disgusting. Now my mother comes there to report a civil matter, and that I went to specialty to have my father sign some documents, and she's there to make a report on all of this. It said that I had provided a fake last will and testament. It was not fake. He typed it. He knew what he was saying. I was asking him about certain things. He didn't have much. I did type it up next to him, with him, while he was still at U of M. And then I brought it back to specialty once he got trained. It's not fake. Everything was real. Her documents are fake, and I'm going to prove it. I got him to sign this fake will and testament, also a power of attorney. And then I brought my own notary as well to assist in the signing. And it says that I assisted him due to not having the ability to sign on his own. He has an issue with his eyes, also handicapped, and his hands is therefore unable to sign documents. She stated that the power of attorney, she stated she is the power of attorney and did not give me permission to take any paperwork. And nobody knew this. These documents weren't produced or made known to anybody else except her. She didn't start producing them until after I come out with the actual ones that were, mine are legit. But this is all played out in probate court now, and no police department will investigate, even though there's numerous cities and nobody's investigating. They all just believe her delusions about me and promising false fraud charges on me without investigation. So I'll get more to that in a minute. But she states that I'd also been caught prior sneaking in weed brownies. I didn't sneak anything in. I walked right the fuck through the door with them in my hands. I didn't sneak anything. She's the one sneaking stuff in. Wake up. In the facility, and she learned this due to a urine drug test, and she's the one who initiated this drug test at U of M, knowing, so I don't know how it became known that he was eating them. He'd been eating them for like months at this point. This was not, I believe it was like 3 or 4 months at this point at least that he'd been eating them. Once she started pulling the meds from his chart, and all prior to that, his body's used to, he's been eating them for years. Like, she just literally had no clue. And at no time was I sneaking anything, literally. She advised that she made a report in Brownstown due to me removing money from the bank accounts with the paperwork that was signed. Okay, well, at this point, you've got me running back and forth between different states. I'm wiped out. I'm permanently injured and disabled due to her crimes against me initially. I'm over here running all over the place, buying him food, replacing his food over a year at this point, replacing all of his food because she's bringing in poisoned food. Okay, so I've spent way more, tens of thousands of dollars more out of pocket at this point, between the gas, the running around, the missed work, the incapacitation, all the food bought. Line it up. The amount that came out of my own pocket was like tens of thousands of dollars. So that little, like, I don't know, what was it, $1,200 total, not even, that I don't even think it was that high. And the other amount I took was directly for the attorney I was hiring him. In the certified checks were directly made out to the guy. I don't know if they were made out to him or maybe they were money orders. But either way, I wrote his name on them and whatnot. So It's all there. I barely took any money out. She's over here making up all this bullshit. It's because she's looking for a reason to make sure that I get charged, because she likes filing false police reports, false charges on me. Oh, I'm going to go way back, over 20 years ago, where this all started. When I get to that point, I just think this is urgent right now. This needs to get out right now. So I will get back and start from the beginning of her filing all these false charges on me and all these police departments operating on her delusions, and then proceeding forward with all these false charges and disrupting my life all along the way. So I will get to all that. So she waited to do this. She slipped those down. Her documents are fake. Her witnesses are fake as fuck too. They each have, I believe I know who the two witnesses are. I don't have the documents, but I do have the date that they were signed. I was told by APS initially. And I do, because those are both considered credible people, because all the fancy letters after their last name, they believe her documents to be real. Oh, wasn't that slick? Then it said she's advised to go to probate court to settle the incident. Okay, so then she obtained the footage, the video footage from the room when this was done. There was no sound, it's just video footage. And all the statements made by me and then the notary basically say the same thing, even though we talked to them separately. The video footage backs up exactly what we said. It's not, the footage doesn't change anything, and there's nothing illegal done. Because I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so it says the officer spoke with my mother to clarify that my dad's disabilities, that my dad's hands are crippled and his vision is almost gone, that my dad has a neurological test completed and they're waiting on the results, and it's unknown if he has a mental disability. He doesn't have a mental disability, it's a physical injury. Okay, so, and I caught that in the probate paperwork as well, trying to say he's got some mental disorder too. She states that he's forgetful, confused, and does not remember things. States all of the previous, what? That doesn't even make sense. Okay, he's also paraplegic. And that she carries his identification card with her at all times. Therefore, the notary did not use his license. So, you don't have to have the license. I called numerous notaries before this. I did not just waltz in there, waste my time and money, drop the documents, get somebody on board to meet me there, pay them, without verifying how all of this works legally first. You do not have to have the person's ID. If you have two witnesses there to verify that that is the person that the documents are pertaining to, not only that, we had about 4 witnesses of legal age. 5. There was 5 total, technically. If you count my 2 kids, but they were included in some of the documentation, so they couldn't count, but they were there as well to verify that he is who he is. But then there was 2 witnesses additionally, and me. So the identification card was not needed. They said that this happens all the time. I let them know about the problem with his hands, him not being able to write properly, and his vision. I let them know all of that, and they said, yeah, that happens a lot. You wouldn't believe how often it happens. They said he could sign by mark, or he could try to initial if he wanted to, or he could attempt to do his full name. It was up to him. He opted to try to sign his full name. That's what happened, and there were so many signings that he was getting tired, and what happened is toward the end, he couldn't really, we just had to help him hold the pen on the paper. Toward the end, he was having trouble hanging on to it, so we had to help him hold on to it a little more, because he had already started signing with his full signature. He really should have just signed with the mark is what it was. That would have been acceptable as well. So when you see the video and you see us trying to help him a little further toward the end, because he can't see in his hands, we're not making him move it. He did it himself with however he thought his signature should be, and it comes out as sloppy as it is because it is him doing it. We didn't. If we helped him, it would have been a lot neater than how it came out. I have copies of it. Anyway, what I did was not illegal. I verified with like 5 different notaries in advance, and so she makes it a point to tell them that because she believes you're supposed to be able to have the ID. That's why she's saying that in the report. Now it says she obtained the power of attorney paperwork from my mother. What? And then it says whatever that I had given fraudulent documents. Mine are not fraudulent. Hers are fraudulent, and I can prove it. And I'm going to prove it to the world. I'm going to prove it on these videos, and I'm going to prove it to the world. Because I'm going to show his actual state of being. You already heard it in my previous police report, because you're going to see the date when I show you what he looked like, and the date her documents were signed. So they tried to locate some of these witnesses, but they couldn't find them. It talks about the video footage. You know how he's laying there a few minutes into the video. 6 people walk into the room. It was me. I could see standing next to him pulling out the paperwork. And then it shows, talks about the notary from Wayne County. It shows that his hands are in a permanent curled position towards his body, which they were. They were stuck like that because nobody stretched his hands when he was intubated and unconscious for a couple months at Vibra, when he was at Vibra and Taylor the second time around. That's how he got stuck like that. It says that I put the pen in his hand, handed him the documents. He signs the documents while I hold the paper, and it can be seen that his lips are moving, but due to no sound, it is unknown what is being said. The next signature that I do help guide him slightly by grabbing the pen in his hand. It's because he started to write off the paper, and we were trying to keep it all in the paper because he couldn't see. For the complete signature, we can be seen grabbing a hold of my dad's hand and the pen to assist in the signing. And I can be seen for the second signature moving my dad's hand for the signature. The video does not have sound. I did obtain this video evidence. However, it keeps getting deleted, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't change anything that's written in here. Based on what I state and what the notary states, it basically, the video shows what we state, so it doesn't change anything. And then it says that my mother provided a bank statement, and I took the power of attorney documents to PNC and withdrew $600 from the account. Mind you, this was to fix the truck my daughter is driving that they own, because I already own 2 vehicles. All the manipulation and narcissistic bullshit games they play, I'm not putting any of my money into a vehicle that is not in my name. I will not be doing that, especially with all the bullshit, the manipulation they play with my daughter, and the games she plays, the games they play, which I already mentioned in the other videos. Why would I be putting my money into a vehicle they own with all the bullshit and games they play? That's why the money was being taken from that account to fix the problem with the truck. And it's still not fixed to this day because all this bullshit went on for months. And now it's all fraudulent. Now it's all played out in probate court fraudulently. And now I don't have access to anything. And now, and my daughter wasn't working this entire time until literally 3 weeks ago. So, and it would cost more than $600 to fix the truck. I had only taken $600 that day. It was more than that. And the place still has the deposit. I gave them the deposit, $200 deposit. They still have it because I never brought the truck in, because then I got banned from taking more money to actually fix the vehicle. My mother does not know how to maintain vehicles either. Ask her how to do an oil change or fix a flat tire, fix anything within a vehicle. Ask her how to do that. Ask her to show you. Ask her to show you how to use a screwdriver. So anyway, I withdrew more money from another bank account. It was his privately. She was not on it. And then the bank said they wouldn't provide anything until a police report was filed because they believed me to have power of attorney, which was real. That's why she wasn't around providing her power of attorney documents to any of these facilities after she had them signed, because now this is 8 months from the date she had hers signed. She never provided them to any of these places because hers were fake. There's another big red flag right there. Hers were fake. She had no intention of showing anybody anything until I come in to get the real one signed. Then oh no, I've had them all along. No, you haven't. Yours are fake. I can prove it. Okay, now, the officer contacted me via phone, asked me to come into the police station to speak, and I stated I was unable to. And then they twisted my words and what I'd said also, trying to make me look like I have a mental disorder, so they twisted everything I said. And what I had stated was I was unable to because I had finally gotten the first insurance check, which took me 8 months to receive my first insurance check from the homeowners from the damage to begin the work, and we had to begin working at a rapid rate. So we received the first large check and we had to work very quickly. So I had numerous teams of people here working, and they were being dispersed in units, and we had already begun the work. We'd been working for several days at that point, and we could not stop, and I could not be disrupted, and everything had to flow properly because it took that long to even get that first check. So that's what I stated on the phone, and she twisted everything I said to make it look like I had a mental disorder when I was on the phone and what I answered with. So it doesn't matter what she said, because she twisted it all, because it's all bullshit. So then, then it says contact with the notary. They contacted her via phone on 6/17/24 at approximately 11 a.m. She asked what it was in regards to. They stated my dad and her being the notary on the document. She replied, who and when was this? They asked her to come to the police department and speak, and she stated she would come. She did. They spoke with her in the lobby. She stated she was contacted by a lawyer to sign for service. She stated she only knew that what was going to be signed, and stated when she got to the location, and I advised her that the wife had already taken my dad's 401k, did not want to take anything further, and stated that my dad nodded in agreement that my mother had done this without his permission, because then I told her about the argument the night before, where she was trying to finish him off, basically, over the argument on the amount of the 401k. Officer asked the notary what kind of state my dad was in when she responded to, was he of sound of mind and wanted to sign the documents, and if my dad actually wanted to sign the documents and go through with the paperwork, and the notary stated yes. Asked about the assistance in signing the documents, and the notary had stated they had to assist him because he had opted to sign his full name, and it was just too taxing for him to continue on with the full signature on all those signatures. He really should have just went with the mark instead of the full signature, which was why that occurred. So basically, she told them the same thing I did over the phone. And then it said I had been in multiple reports with Romulus Police Department accusing my mother of poisoning my dad. See report number this one and this one, whatever. Case closed. Report. Then they had a brief interview with the staff at the location, at the care facility. And Officer Reyna met with a female who had identified, I'm not going to say her name, but she was a rehab service technician at the location and assists my dad directly with his daily physical therapy. She said she recalls the date in question, which, it was 4/22/24 was the date we signed this. She stated that I was at the location with possibly 2 children and 1 other adult. So it was, my 2 adult children, and it was 2 other adults, and then my younger son and me. So it was all of us. She said it was strange why we were all surrounding him. She didn't know why. She found out later that there was a video of us helping him sign the paperwork. His mental state was the same as it is today, the day that this is written. Explained that he's very forgetful and basically blind now, in and out of it at times. He had a study done on his brain. They're expecting results in July. Stated that he dealt with an issue in January of this year where he did not have oxygen getting to his brain for some time, which caused his mental state to decline. And then they interviewed my dad. So now you're saying that my dad is not in a mental state, but then you interview him anyway, and he says that he's in a medical chair, does not appear he can walk, and then he needs assistance to get from the bed to the chair, and vice versa. And he asked my dad, she asked my dad if he recalled the incident with the signing of the documents in April, and he said he did. He kind of did. Asked if he remembered signing any documents, and advised he did not. Officer Reyna asked if his daughter were to come to the location today, would he sign over power of attorney to her? He advised he would not. He advised he would keep his wife as power of attorney, and advised his memory is not very good anymore. And then contact with my mother. She was at the location when this officer arrived on the scene, and that my mother advised that APS is also involved and aware of the ones, those are the ones who banned me from the location, which was confirmed with staff. And then they contacted the notary, who advised the APS is aware of everything and the daughter's power of attorney is not recognized. And the notary advised they have had to ban me from the facility, and they've already closed the case on their end. So no one looked into the fact that I can prove her documents are fake, and he had no clue he ever signed them. If you look at my previous Romulus police report from October, the year prior to this, when I said I'd been carrying him around, we've been talking about this, and he wasn't well enough to sign them, her documents are dated literally a couple days later, and at the same time I got numerous video footages of him and the conditions, mental and physical condition at that time, proves he was not able to sign those documents at that time. Proof. I have proof. Now, one person has investigated this properly. Every single person goes right to the deranged lunatic, who then has told each person that they're talking to the information that comes out of that person's mouth. Where did that person get their information? From the deranged lunatic who told it to you. Did you look into the first report that I made and the video that I have? And then I said I've been carrying him around, and that we've been talking about this, and how I stated in that first report he's not well enough to sign them. And then I have the video to prove it. Did anybody look into this? Nobody actually investigated. All you all did is write false reports and ride on the delusions with the deranged lunatic again. I'm so fed up with this bullshit. Like, shit. I need a whole Xanax over this shit. I can't believe this. Like, it's disgusting. These people call themselves cops. They operate on delusions. Nobody actually investigates anything. This is why she's still walking around free as a bird and able to destroy every aspect of my life, ripping out the rug from under me. There was no malicious intent. You have to have malicious intent to have a fraud conviction. Oh, and there's more, because the Brownstown Police Department's involved in all this too, with more. So I will be back with that as well. Back with another one. Thanks. Bye.